Good evening, all, and a very warm welcome to this evening's webinar on Rajasthan, driving the next phase of growth in India's renewable energy sector. This webinar is being organized by Renew Foundation, which is the philanthropic arm of Renew Power. Renew Foundation was set up in 2018 with a vision to impact the lives of people through clean energy. It aims to develop sustainable solutions in the area of renewable energy, which focus on energy access to the last mile. Another important objective of Renew Foundation is to drive thought leadership in the broad climate change domain and become a leading voice in the sector for policy advocacy and recommendations. To this end, Renew Foundation has instituted a thought leadership series, of which this webinar is a part. By the way, this is also the first in the series of state-focused webinar that we plan to host. And we are beginning with a state that has not just been an early adopter and a front runner, but is actually a solar powerhouse for the country, the state of Rajasthan. In today's webinar, we will focus on the advantages and opportunities that Rajasthan holds out for RE developers and investors and for the country as a whole. Today's webinar will begin with a keynote session for which we are privileged to have among us the Honorable Union Minister of State for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Babul Supriyo, who has kindly consented to deliver the keynote address. We are also fortunate to have Honorable Energy Minister of Rajasthan, Shri Bulakidas Kallaji, who will deliver the special address. We also have Mr. Sumant Sinha, founder and CMD of Renew Power, India's premier renewable energy IPP, and also Ms. Vaishali Nigam Sinha, who is Chief Sustainability Officer of Renew Power and Chair of Renew Foundation. This keynote session will be followed by a panel discussion involving industry experts. To begin the proceedings, I now invite Mr. Sumant Sinha for the welcome address. Mr. Sinha, please.
Yeah, thank you, Deepak. It is really a pleasure and an honor to welcome Honorable Union Minister of State for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Babul Supriyo, and also to welcome Honorable Minister for Energy, the Government of Rajasthan, Shri B.D. Kallaji. Thank you so much for joining us today. Distinguished panelists and audience, it is indeed my great pleasure and privilege to welcome all of you to this webinar organized by Renew Foundation on the topic of Rajasthan driving the next phase of growth in India's renewable energy sector. And I'd like to thank both the ministers for having taken time out from the busy schedule to have joined us today. Thank you very much to both the ministers for that. Let me just say a quick word about the whole issue of climate change. We all know that climate change is one of the most fundamental and biggest problems that we are facing, not just obviously in India, but globally. And therefore, I think all of us have to come together and do as much as we can to address the issue. It is really, I think, very good for us that we have in the form of our Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, a person who's leading this whole effort from the front. I think under his leadership, India has taken a very proactive leadership on dealing with climate change issues globally as well. And I think the whole world appreciates the position now that India is taking. I think, in terms of the work that the Indian government is doing in the area of environment and climate change, that team is very ably led by the Honorable Minister, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, as well as Shri Babul Supriyo ji. And they have launched several very critical initiatives, such as the National Clean Air Program, the Integrated Waste Management Program, and the Green Skill Development Program. And I think all of these, along with all the other terrific work that is being done by the ministry, will definitely go a long way in improving and protecting our environment and making sure that even as India develops, we leave behind a good, sustainable environment for our future generations. And I think this is a very, very fundamental change that this government has brought into our whole development paradigm that just did not exist in the same way earlier. And so I think to that extent, we're all very grateful to the government for having taken this leadership. It is also very clear that the whole area of climate change, one of the biggest contributors to climate change really has been the area of energy. And therefore, I think the growth of renewable energy itself is going to be is very critical to dealing with the whole area of climate change. And again, I think we are very fortunate that our Prime Minister has taken the lead of having set such an ambitious target, such a bold target of first 175 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity to be set up by 2022. And then secondly, a 450 gigawatt target now that he has announced in the UN forum in 2019 by 2030. Now, this is a humongous target, and we must actually recognize the boldness and the foresight and the vision to have set this target, because today India's total capacity of power generation is only 400 gigawatts. So to set up that capacity just out of renewable energy in the next 10 years, I think is an enormous task. And I'm pleased to say that the government is really working very hard to make sure that we are able to meet that target. And of course, we also know that the government has announced the program of Atmanirbhar Bharat, which will hopefully allow us to also develop the whole ecosystem of manufacturing that is required to make sure that we are able to achieve this target. And so that we make sure that all of this entire industry develops within India, which we can then also use to export. It is also clear that this target will not be met just by the central government. We know that power energy in India is a concurrent subject, and therefore states also have to play a very, very important role. And there is no state that has almost a more important role than the state of Rajasthan, which is why we are, delighted that we are doing this first webinar with Rajasthan. Rajasthan today has an installed capacity of 10 gigawatts of renewables already, which is almost 10% of the total renewables capacity set up in the country. Out of that, approximately 5.5 gigawatts is solar, 4.5 gigawatts is wind. And Rajasthan is one of the very few states in India that has both good quality solar radiation, in fact, the best, as well as good quality wind. And therefore, you can actually do a number of hybrid type of projects as well within Rajasthan. Rajasthan also has the benefit, apart from having very high solar radiation, is that it has a lot of very usable land from a renewable energy standpoint, which is actually barren land and cannot be used for anything else. And therefore, there is the ability for the industry to set up large, very, very mega solar parks and mega wind farms. And with all the development that the government is doing on grid development, it is very possible to carry that capacity away into the rest of India in terms of the power capacity. And various studies have shown that just a very small amount of the available land in Rajasthan can be used to power the India's entire energy needs. And so really, therefore, Rajasthan has a very, very critical role to play. Let me also say a very quick word about ReNew Power. ReNew is, as Deepak said, India's premier renewable energy company. We have 10 gigawatts of total capacity that we have set up already or is in the process of being constructed. That makes us the largest company in renewable energy in India right now. We have almost 740 megawatts of installed capacity in Rajasthan between wind and solar capacity. But more importantly, we are setting up another 2,300 megawatts in Rajasthan. And the total investment that would be made by just our company in Rajasthan will be to the order of 13,500 crores. So you can see that the size of the investment opportunity is tremendous. We ourselves have made tremendous investments, and we will continue to do so as we go forward. But I think it also demonstrates the very central role that Rajasthan has to play in the achievement of the target of 450 gigawatts, which is really a national target that we all have to move towards. I'm glad that we're organizing this webinar today. I think it's very critical to hear both from the central government and the state government how we can actually make sure that Rajasthan continues to play a leading role in this whole energy transformation, and so that we're able to achieve the big targets that we have. And ultimately, it is obviously going to be beneficial for the country as a whole. So I'm very excited and looking forward to hearing both the ministers talk about the topic that we have. And Deepak, back to you.
Thank you, Sumant. And I now invite Minister of State for Environment and Forest, Shri Babul Supriyo ji, to deliver his keynote address. Babul ji is a two-time Lok Sabha MP from Asansol in West Bengal. And he was first elected to Lok Sabha in 2014. In the previous NDA government, he was Minister of State for Urban Development, Housing and Urban Poverty Alleviation. and at a later time, he was Minister of State for Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises as well. Mr. Babul Supriyoji, please. Sir, you are on mute.
No, I'm unmuted. I think the button lies with you.
Now we can hear you, sir.
Yeah. I think it's a good beginning, because the more muter politicians you have today, I think is better. Politicians should probably listen more than they speak. So I think it's a good sign that I started by being kept mute. And let me tell you, I did not keep myself mute. No politician does. Uh, Especially being a singer, I never want my mic to be mute, because if I could not do any politics in music, I would love to bring some music into politics. So first of all, I would, I was express my gratitude to all of you for making me a part of today's evening's discussion. My my best regards to Shri B.D. Kalla, the Honorable Minister of Energy, Government of Rajasthan, Mr. Suman Sinha, CMD Renew Power Private Limited. We have Miss Vaishali Nigam Sinha, who is the chair of Renew Foundation. We obviously have, I don't know whether Mr. M.M. Ranwa, CEO of RUVNL is here, Mr. Vishal Mehta, Mr. Manoj Mathur, Mr. Sanjay Varghese, he's the president of, and of course, Deepak Gupta ji, our moderator today. It's true that our ministry does a lot in terms of renewable energy. We have got a very nice office where we try to use as much as renewable energy as possible. We have solar panels installed on our ceiling and all of that. On my right, I see Suman Sinha. Normally, if you have a beautiful house, it's a tendency to keep all the lights on. But I can see he has kept the limelight only on himself while the background is dark. I think that also saves energy a lot, and it also shows that we are maintaining the right frame of mind and supporting the cause from inside. However, given the fact that this is especially about how Rajasthan is leading this entire endeavor of getting renewable energy to new levels in our country, and how that is better for the environment. It helps our ministry in terms of climate change, pollution, and a lot of other things. I think it would be very fair if I have Shri Kalla Sahab. If I can have Kalla Sahab, obviously he's a very senior politician. It is he who should speak. I should be kept on mute. He should talk about what Rajasthan has done. And it would be my pleasure to hear and also know from him what, as a ministry, we can do to support that endeavor. Because uh, he's the one who specializes in this, leading the ministry in his own state. And this is about Rajasthan. So, sir, I would ask you to hold the fort. I have been to Rajasthan several times to see the beautiful forts there. So
Always welcome.
It'll be my honor to listen to you first before I can say anything more about. But once again, it's a pleasure, and thank you so much for making me a part of this enlightened discussion. Sir, Deepak ji, I have not given you a chance to moderate.
No problem, sir. But I'll because just to while everyone knows Kallaji, sir, but still, if you allow me for half a minute, for the sake of the audience who might be slightly less informed. Thank you, Babulji, and I now call upon as Babulji has instructed, we now call upon Shri B.D. Kallaji to deliver the special address. Shri Kallaji is a senior cabinet minister in the government of Rajasthan, holding the portfolios of energy, public health engineering, groundwater, arts, literature, culture and archaeology. He is a MLA from Bikaner West constituency. And prior to this, he has been elected to Rajasthan Assembly 6 times. And he has had key roles such as leader of opposition in Rajasthan Assembly, president of Rajasthan Pradesh Congress Committee, and chairman of 4th Finance Commission. So, Kallaji, over to you. Thank you.
Honorable Union Minister of State for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Babul Supriyoji, founder and CMD, Renew Power, Sri Sumant Sinha ji, distinguished guest, distinguished panelists, and friends. It is my pleasure to be delivering the special address at this webinar on Rajasthan driving the next phase of growth in India's renewable energy sector. Today, as we strive to mitigate impact of climate change, it is very much necessary to move away from fossil fuels towards cleaner energy, green energy. This is what makes the renewable energy sector a critical sector going ahead. As India pursues the target of 450 gigawatt from renewable by 2030, I believe that Rajasthan will be at the forefront of this capacity expansion. Availability of most sunny days in a year, high insolation and large tracts of government as well as private non-cultivable barren land make Rajasthan a sought after destination for solar developers. Rajasthan currently is second in terms of solar capacity, and the Rajasthan government under Honorable Chief Minister Sri Ashok Gehlot ji is fully committed to taking the state to the top position. We have launched the Rajasthan Solar Policy 2019 towards this objective. The Honorable Chief Minister has announced various provisions to promote solar energy in the urban area also through rooftop solar systems. We will develop 33 districts headquarters and selected cities as green energy cities. Suitable provisions have also been made in the budget for the development of solar energy. By 2024-25, we target setting up 30,000 megawatt of solar capacity. Of this, 24,000 will be grid connected through solar parks, 4,000 megawatt stand-alone decentralized solar plants, and 1,000 megawatt each of rooftop solar and solar pumps. By 2024-25, we also target generating 7,500 megawatt from wind and hybrid. The Solar Policy 2019 and Wind and Hybrid Energy Policy 2019 offers several relaxations and incentives aimed at making Rajasthan a leading renewable energy hub. They not only take care of big stakeholders and investors, it also have provisions for electric vehicle charging stations, solarization of agriculture pumps, storage, technology in renewable energy, manufacturing sector, replacement of old wind turbines with new wind turbines by way of repowering. The policies have brought down the cost of generating power from renewables in the states. Rajasthan Solar Park Development Company Limited, a special purpose vehicle of the Rajasthan Renewable Energy Corporation, has been established for the development of infrastructure and management of solar parks. The RREC will develop solar parks in Rajasthan on its own or through any other SPV which may be created as required. The state will promote development of solar parks in joint venture with private developers by investing up to 50% equity or any other percentage of equity participation as decided by the state government. The cost of land allotted by state government would be part of its equity participation in the joint venture company. The state government on its own or through any other agency designated by it will promote setting up of ultra mega renewable energy power park UMREPP in joint venture with central public sector undertakings. 1,000 megawatt solar park is being developed in partnership with NTPC in Nok, Jaisalmer. The state will give extra attention to the development of solar parks by the private sector. The solar power park developer will be allowed to acquire agricultural land from the title holder for developing solar parks above. The ceiling limit per the provisions of Rajasthan Imposition of Ceiling on Agriculture Holding Act 1973, the state is also keen to support solar projects with the storage system like battery storage, pump hydro storage, or any other grid interactive storage system. The DISCOMs plans to procure up to 5% of their RPO target from renewable energy projects with the storage system at a tariff discovered through competitive bidding. In addition to the RPO target, the state will sponsor R&D in storage technologies, including generation of hydrogen. Rooftop solar power plants can be set up on government buildings on RESCO model. Rooftop consumers will be provided subsidies, oblique incentives as per the guidelines of MNRE, oblique state government. Startups will be promoted for installation of rooftop solar systems. We are encouraging farmers to set up decentralized solar power projects on their uncultivable barren land and also promoting installation of solar PV pumps. We are also supporting standalone solar systems to electrify remote households. The state will also promote setting up of floating reservoir top oblique canal top solar power projects for sale of power to DISCOMs through competitive bidding or for captive use oblique third party sale. Generation of electricity from solar power plant shall be treated as eligible industry under the schemes administered by the state's industries department and for incentives available to industrial units under the Rajasthan Investment Promotion Scheme. The government aims to promote manufacturing facilities for solar energy equipment in Rajasthan, leading to the development of solar energy ecosystem and to facilitate employment generation in the state with following concessions. Benefits of micro, small and medium enterprises MSME policy to eligible manufacturers. Land allotment at 50% concessional rate in industrial area oblique any other area. Exemption of 100% stamp duty. Full exemption in electricity duty for 10 years. Investment subsidy on SGST to solar energy equipment manufacturers. Interest subsidy as per RIPS. Treating solar energy equipment manufacturing as thrust sector and other benefits of Rajasthan Investment Promotion Scheme. Rajasthan with a huge and market large supplier base, rich mineral wealth, competitive labor costs, solid connectivity and incentives like single window clearance and tax exemption is uniquely placed to emerge as a domestic manufacturing hub of solar equipment. I would invite all renewable energy developers and domestic solar manufacturers to invest in Rajasthan. Padharo Mare Desh, assuring all support and a highly conducive business climate. I have no doubt that Rajasthan is going to be at the center of the next phase of growth for India's renewable energy sector as it expands in capacity and turns Atmanirbhar Rajasthan. Rajasthan is ready to play a key role in this future phase of growth of renewable in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for a very, very informative presentation and your speech, sir. And it's really inspiring to see how Rajasthan is playing a key role in meeting national targets. Now, as Babul Supriyoji had said, sir, I would still turn back to you, Babul Supriyoji, if you have anything to add before I move to the next person.
I congratulate Shri Kallaji for all the information and all the good work that has been done by the Rajasthan government. He very correctly said that the number of sunny days in Rajasthan are really high, and you have made very good use to it. You know, in our school days, we are taught that make hay while the sun shines, but we all learn that, but never really put it into practice. So it feels great to know and see that you've actually utilized the sunny days and made real hay out of it. So congratulations on that, sir. I hope that anything that the central government can do to support your endeavor, you are definitely going to interact with the ministry and the Ministry of Renewable Energy to make sure that the federal structure takes the country forward in the way that the people of the country aspires to. As you all know that Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji is a great champion of renewable energy sector. His leadership of the ISA and his call for one sun, one world, one grid, it underlines his commitment to the sector. He set a target of 175 gigawatts of renewable energy by 2022 and 450 gigahertz by 2030. It's not a very easy target to meet, but I think that when you have, as Shri Kallaji he said, he spelled out what he has in mind and what Rajasthan wants to do. I think it's not a winner is a winner before he has won. So if you have, as a leader, if you have the courage to spell out and tell your countrymen what is the way forward and how you wish to achieve that, I think that makes the country a more confident place to, the people of the country are more confident about achieving that, because you want your leader not to keep quiet, but to spell out the dream. You might achieve a few, you might not achieve a few others, but it's important to know what exactly you have stepped out to do. And I think that is something that is that our Honorable Prime Minister has done. As Mr. Kalla said, Chief Minister Gehlot Sahab has also done it well in Rajasthan. I once again congratulate them for that. So under our Honorable Prime Minister leadership, the government of India has shown a steady commitment to the growth of renewable energy in India. Now, the impacts of climate change, the impacts of the world becoming a hotter place, the air conditioned machines that are now working 24 hours. I'm in Bengal for the last 3-4 days. While in Delhi, it was chilly cold, 1 degree, 2 degree. The electric heaters were running overtime. Here in Kolkata, it's absolutely hot. So the air conditioned machines are working 24 hours a day, but on the other side of the mode, we're trying to make it cold. So what is happening in the bargain is that we are not making the world a better place by the usage of all the gases and everything else that goes into running air conditions and all of the fossil fuels that we use in our country. So the target of 450 gigawatts, by 2030 is not only a cause that will help reduce the cost of energy in our country, which many people say is definitely high. Not only reduce that cost, but will also make world a greener, better place. And as the Minister of State for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, I definitely would want to reiterate the fact that that is something that we all need to do very, very consciously. And Rajasthan has shown the way. So I'm sure there are a lot of states in our country which has a lot of sunny days, and they should also lead by example and try to do their best on that particular path to ensure that we get close to what our Honorable Prime Minister has set as a goal for in front of all of us. Uh, I also, wish to show one positive side that during the pandemic everything has been very morbid, very negative. But despite the pandemic, the renewable energy sector has not been significantly affected, thanks to the must-run status accorded by the government. We have not really The renewable energy sector has not really slowed down. Though I am I have a very nice speech written in black and white right in front of me. I've read it, and whatever I'm saying is something which is connected to my ministry as well. So I'm not just reading out what I have in front of me, but also trying to put in my sincerity in believing and in the endeavor of trying to achieve that, and not just taking out some precious time from your very busy schedule, a line that all of you say when you introduce the minister. So I mean and I feel what I say. And even during this tough period, renewable energy capacity auctions have seen an overwhelming response from investors, reflecting their faith in India's renewable energy sector. This is one bright light in this entire period that we went through from March to it's still on. जब तक दवाई नहीं तब तक ढिलाई नहीं, जो हम सुन रहे हैं रिंगटोन में बच्चन साहब की आवाज में. तो मैं आपको ये कह सकता हूँ कि ये पैंडेमिक के टाइम में भी इन्वेस्टर्स इस सेक्टर में आए हैं, और हमने कंटिन्यूस एक बिडिंग जो है वो हमने देखा है. तो रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी सेक्टर जो है वो आगे भी जाके और बढ़ेगा, और उसी से हमारा क्लाइमेट चेंज, एनवायरनमेंट, सारी चीजों की जो है बेटरमेंट होगी. पोल्यूशन इसमें काफी जो है वो कम हो जाएंगे. I wish I could show you as the Minister for Heavy Industries, we have in fact worked very hard to ensure that the FAME 1 and FAME 2 scheme, it actually subsidized the electric vehicles, EVs, a lot in the country. Not only in terms of we later on withdrew the subsidy that was given to individual vehicles, and siphoned off the funds more toward public transport. Because if you have a bus full of people, running bus full of people, a bus which is running on subsidy from the government, then instead of carrying one person in one car in an electric vehicle, you would have an entire bus carrying maybe 150 people to the destination. So we changed a little bit in the FAME 1 and FAME 2, but India has taken some very significant steps in the right direction. So the states do play a very critical role, and as I said, Sri Kallaji, he has done his state has done some fantastic work, and therefore I think they should hold some workshops in different states. Maybe in Bengal after March, April, we will all be able to get to hear you, pun intended. So after March, April, we might be able to hear you in a more better state of mind, and see how we can make those as we start with renewed energy in Bengal. So that's one very important thing. And lastly, I would really like to say that I will definitely have to say some good words about Renew Power, because you're the organizer of this evening today. And Mr. Gupta obviously did not introduce Renew Power. So therefore, I have been given the onus. I'll have to say a few good words for the good work that you have done, not just for the thing of it. You have emerged as one of the largest players in the sector, with over 10 gigawatts of capacity spread in about 110 projects in 8 states. How did you manage that? That's pretty that's a pretty commendable task. I appreciate your declaration of setting up manufacturing facility to encourage Atmanirbhar renewable sector. Obviously, that's synonymous to your kind of production, because obviously you're not going to use sunlight from Bangladesh or Pakistan to make electricity in India. So it has to be Atmanirbhar. The wind, if you want to use wind energy to produce electricity in India, again wind has to be from India. So in a most indigenous way, you do support Atmanirbhar Bharat, and that's what we are looking at. So at the end of it, I can just say that they say that once again, when you're walking in the right direction, the best thing that you can do is keep walking with all the ambitions and the aspirations that you have in mind. So when we have leaders in the right place trying to drive this particular sector, I hope that Renew Energy is going to, with renewable energy, is going to ensure that you don't stop at 110 projects in 8 states, but you get to do much more. And the wind and the sun and all the forces of nature which help in creating renewable energy, they all help you achieve much more in the days to come. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you, Kalla Sahab. You're a very senior minister, and as a new politician, it is always very enlightening to hear you, to hear people of your experience, and to learn how to take things forward. Thank you so much, and namaskar to all of you.
So nice of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Babulji, for a very inspiring speech and for your very kind words. Your inspiration actually will take many of the renewers who are listening to this conversation. It will make them feel very, very proud. So thanks for your kind words. And thank you, Kallaji, for really sharing a very, very detailed information about Rajasthan and sort of setting up the stage actually for the rest of the panel discussion part of this webinar. We have absolutely no doubt that all the efforts being undertaken by the state will help the state emerge as an attractive destination for RE deployment and manufacturing. And as I said in the beginning, I think all of us do see Rajasthan as the emerging solar powerhouse for the country and also as a hub for Atmanirbhar RE sector. So with that, sir, I would now request Ms. Vaishali Nigam Sinha, Chair of the Renew Foundation, to deliver vote of thanks. But sir, please don't go after this. I'll have a 1 minute thing, just a very brief photo of just after Ms. Sinha's vote of thanks. Ms. Sinha, please.
Thank you so much, Honorable Union Minister of State, Shri Babul Supriyo, Honorable Minister for Energy, Shri Kallaji. This is really music to the ears. Your special keynote delivery was really music. You know, all of us as stakeholders in the sector really look forward to this synergy between not only what is happening at the state level, what's happening at the center, but how we synergize this with what's happening around us. And I think what's really happening around us is a deep commitment to the renewable energy space, to the climate change space. And when, as Babul Supriyo mentioned, when leaders are in the right place, have their heart in the right place, and do what they're supposed to do with sincerity, it really does have an impact. And this delivery just now, which we heard, is a perfect classic example of that. So we're very grateful for the kind of commitment our country and our leaders are showing towards this very important area of renewable energy and climate change. India, no doubt, is taking leadership, and it can only happen when the commitment comes from the state and from the center together, and from stakeholders like us who are actually on the ground bringing about the change that we're trying to do across India and in Rajasthan. We do hope that the work which we are doing not only has a positive impact as far as the biggest challenges, which is climate change, is concerned, but we also hope that we can impact the lives of people where we have the generation happening. So I just wanted to highlight that with the support of the government, we are working very hard to also impact the lives of people who are living in these areas. We are ensuring that we give back in a philanthropic way. And so a lot of our social responsibility work, even in Rajasthan, whether it is setting up tankas, whether it is lighting lives by energy access in the remotest parts of Rajasthan. We are doing a lot of work to engage women as well in entrepreneurship opportunities. We are working with the United Nations in programs where we can have this impact on the ground, in addition to contributing towards our renewable energy goals. We take a lot of pride in not only generating clean energy, but as we do that, that it's important that we do good as well. So we don't not only run a good business, but we also want to do good. And with the guidance and the mentorship and the leadership which the governments are providing at the center and the state level, I think the task becomes so much more easier. So after a decade of being in this business, all I'd like to say is that we are working hard to accelerate our goals towards our 2030 goals with the United Nations as set, and we are working with various stakeholders to do our bit, whether it is with the government, whether it is with industry, whether it is with academia. So once again, very grateful for this opportunity, I think, and we look forward to doing more. The goals which have been set are very high, the bar is high, and events like this just help us and motivate us and encourage us to accelerate our contribution as well. So once again, thank you so much. I know you'd mentioned, Babulji, Supriyaji, that we shouldn't be thanking you for your time, etc. But we really do mean it. It's really important and very, we're very grateful that you're here today to encourage us. And I also wanted to highlight, as I close this vote of thanks, that what we are discussing today gets amplified to other stakeholders who are going to play an important role in us achieving our milestones. So whether it is international organizations, whether it is think tanks, whether it is investors who are interested in investing in Rajasthan and in India at large, are all going to be getting a report and will be privy to these discussions. So these comments are very important, and we will see. This is a call for action to various stakeholders. We'll make sure that happens. Thank you once again.
I just want to add one thing, just to highlight, sir, Kalla Saab, just give me 30 seconds. I just want to highlight one thing that, in the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, not only is my boss, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, who I would want to use the word, I want to use the word consciously, one of the sweetest, most pampering bosses, that he's not listening, so it does not give me any brownie points, or a promotion. But he's one of the sweetest and most pampering bosses that I've really had. But not only is he passionate about it, but the reason why I could attend today's, conference is because Bhabhi ji, Prachi Javadekar ji, she was the one who called me up, and I think got me connected to all of you, and said that since sir is busy today, if I could represent him from our ministry side. So as you as you said as you gave out the vote of thanks, I would also want to thank, and it also highlights that how much we are, in the central government, we're all together as husband and wives and families to ensure that we put in our very best. And Kalla Saab, it's my very sincere request to you that as a part of, there could be political differences and all of that, but as a part of the country's Honorable Prime Minister's dream to make India one of the leading players in the world, I really hope that as a leading state in this particular sector, you are going to approach us, you are going to keep this dialogue going so that the other states also see you and get inspired in this particular field. Thank you so much.
Our joint aim is to achieve green energy for our country.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. May I also now request all other panel participants to switch on their cameras. Our IT team will help us click a photograph somehow. I don't know how it works. If all panelists can really please switch on their cameras. And meanwhile, for information of both the ministers, we are going to have a panel discussion focused on Rajasthan just after this. So you are very, very welcome to stay on and listen in and contribute to the panel discussion. If you would have time, sir, please.
Okay, I guess that's it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you. So now we move on to the next part of this webinar, which is the panel discussion. As a moderator, and for some of those who might have joined late, my name is Deepak. I am going to moderate this session, which is a power-packed panel. And let me sort of briefly introduce to the three panelists who we have available with us. So we have Shri M.M. Ranwa Sahab, who is CEO of Rajasthan Urja Vikas Nigam Limited. He has been associated with the sector and particularly Rajasthan power sector for more than 36 years. And he has very obviously rich experience in power sector issues in general, but also very, very deep understanding of Rajasthan. Then we are also joined by Mr. Vishal Mehta. I can't see him. Okay, yeah, he's there. So he is a core member of strategy and operations practice at Boston Consulting Group, and he leads BCG's work on power and utilities in India and power generation operations work for Asia Pacific. He's an expert on energy and the environmental issues and engineered products as well as infrastructure. So we are very, very honored to have you, Vishal and Ranwa Sahab. And then we have Mr. Sanjay Varghese, who is President Solar Business at Renew Power. And again, he has led the progress that we just spoke about in the past discussions on where Renew is on the solar side. So his work at Renew speaks for itself in that sense. So without much ado and further introductions and knowing the paucity of time, I'll straight away get into some of the discussions. And I'll move to Mr. Ranwa first. So Ranwa Sahab, welcome. Sir, I want you to shed some light on Rajasthan's power sector, both demand and supply situation, and also how Rajasthan's power sector with specific focus on renewable energy, how has it evolved in last 1 decade, which is last 10 years and so, and how you have been able to tackle the increase in renewable energy capacity at the state level, sir. It would be very good for audience to understand coming from you, what changes have you seen in the sector and how Rajasthan has been able to tackle those changes at the state level, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, and I thank Renew Power also, who has organized this meeting and interactive session on renewable energy sector. As far as Rajasthan is concerned, as on today, we have more than 21,000 megawatt of installed capacity, including renewables. Rajasthan is a power sector state, and as far as RPO compliance is concerned, we are almost near the compliance status, although we are having some shortfall in RPO compliance. But as far as RPO is concerned, in Rajasthan RE sector, we have biggest challenge of renewable energy forecasting we are facing these days, because a lot more to be done as far as forecasting of wind and solar energy is concerned. Rajasthan has come out with a very investment friendly RE policy in the year 2019. And as our Honorable Minister, Mr. B.D. Kalla, has already highlighted some of the issue of our RE policy, which incentivizes investors in various ways. Recently, our Honorable Chief Minister has declared that entire agriculture demand will be met during the daytime only. All the farmers will be given supply during daytime. So this is a very challenging task before us. We have a connected load of around 15,000 megawatt of agriculture. When the entire load will come during the daytime, then we need to add some capacity which can fulfill this demand, and we can cater the demand of agriculture consumers during daytime.
So I think we'll wait for Mr. Ranwa to get a better connection, stable connection. Local teams probably are helping. Meanwhile, I'll maybe move to the second panelist. Mr. Ranwa, are you back? Okay, move to Vishal, you. So Vishal, you have seen how investors are present in the state and what kind of RE development is happening in the state. But still, I want, from your perspective, as someone who helps multiple investors, like what is it that you think is attracting such kind of investments to Rajasthan? And what is it that Rajasthan can do better to attract further investments in RE sector particularly?
So thanks for the opportunity. I mean, Rajasthan happens to be my home state, and I belong to the westernmost region of Rajasthan, and the desert region. And while growing up, we used to always wonder that what are the advantages of this part of the world, and why civilization actually delivered us there. But now the clock has turned. If you see, it is one of the most endowed areas from the natural resource perspective of availability of solar resources as well as wind resources, right? So I think from a when I talk to most of the developers as well as investors, there are two things. One is the consistency of policy in terms of trying to attract developers over there, as well as availability of sun and wind resources, right? So that's very robust, which is one attraction point. The second is just in terms of executing projects in Rajasthan, and of course I'm not trying to compare multiple states, but at the end of the day, you do end up taking you price in the uncertainty of commissioning a project, of collecting your cash, and those things. And most developers that I speak to speak very highly and positively of Gujarat in terms of being able to execute projects on time, in having a policy around land acquisition which is favorable to the developers and investors. I mean, the pricing might be one thing, but at least on the ease of acquisition of land, there is clarity on how do you go about it, as well as getting some of the local clearances and permits, right, which basically reduces the uncertainty in execution. So I mean, overall, if I look at from a project cash flow perspective, it provides both volume and demand certainty from a longer term perspective, as well as in a particular project, it provides a little more certainty around the typical risks that you see in any project execution. So I think, I mean, amongst the various states which are endowed with resources, I mean, Rajasthan definitely scores high in terms of certainty of policy, in terms of certainty of execution, and hence, mitigating the risks of the investors.
Thanks, Vishal. Moving on to Sanjay. Sanjay, you have experienced the real thing on the ground in Rajasthan. So what has been your experience of developing projects and executing projects in the state, and what kind of things if you have any suggestions, again on the similar lines as I had for Vishal, if there is anything else that state can do to further attract investors and RE developers to make for more investments. Sanjay.
Thank you, and good evening to our distinguished guests and fellow panelists. So just to expand on what Vishal said, as Sumant mentioned earlier, we already have 750 megawatts operating in Rajasthan, which we set up over the last 4-5 years. And we have another 2,300 megawatts under construction to be set up in the next 18 to 20 months. So our experience so far has been very good in Rajasthan. I mean, it has multiple advantages. As Vishal mentioned, it is not just the availability of good radiation and ample land. It is also the policy framework which exists and the ease of executing projects. So land, for example, there is waiver from NA requirements and ceiling requirements. In many other states, getting these approvals by NA and ceiling can take anywhere between 6 months to 2 years. In Rajasthan, you can move ahead with the land acquisition, complete that in 4 to 5 months, and then move immediately into project execution. That's a big advantage. And then you have other advantages like, the sector, when it opened up back in 2011 and we started seeing megawatt scale projects in the country, the first majority of the initial projects came up in Rajasthan. So you have a lot of availability of experienced contractors and skilled manpower available who can do the execution of the project. Third advantage that we have is that we don't have problems with monsoon, flooding of sites, etc., which you can see in many other parts of the country. So typically in other parts of the country, about 4 to 5 months in a year, you can't execute any projects. But in Rajasthan, that problem doesn't exist. And so once you start a project, you can complete it within 4 to 5 months. And as Vishal mentioned, that gives a lot of certainty in terms of completion of the project on time, ensuring that your returns are protected, etc. So as I said, overall it's been a very good experience because of the policy framework and the unique advantages that Rajasthan has.
Thank you, Sanjay. So what I'm hearing from both you and Vishal is that Rajasthan offers a very, very enabling environment, and that is what is attracting more and more investors. Now, let me see if Mr. Ranwa is also back. Mr. Ranwa, are you back on the panel?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about the internet. So, Mr. Ranwa, would you like to carry on with your earlier input? And I'll add just one more question to that so that you can respond to this as well. So one, sir, I had asked you and you are going to respond to that. How is it that you have seen Rajasthan power sector evolving and renewables role? But also I want you to, sir, also cover in your input, what is the way forward from here for the state of Rajasthan, at least as a distribution company, at least as a procurer of power, and what kind of products and how much quantum of renewable energy additional procurement is what you are looking for, let's say in 2030 timeframes?
Actually, as far as our requirement for solar power is concerned, looking to the government declaration to give regular power supply to the farmers only during the daytime, this will enhance our requirement of solar energy, because solar is the only source available that can make us available the day power, which we can use for catering the agriculture demand. But simultaneously, the parabolic generation curve of solar need to be converted into a straight line by injecting battery storage during the period when sun starts rising and when sun starts setting down. So the best product Rajasthan will be looking for solar generation with sufficient availability of battery storage. The pricing tariff has been so competitive these days that Rajasthan is also looking for optimizing its power generation cost by procuring solar generation and wind generation both. As far as utilization of transmission system is concerned, I would like to suggest that hybrid power, both wind and solar, will be the better solution for optimum utilization of transmission system. So in the coming time, by the year 23-24, we'll be adding another 2000 megawatt of solar into the system. And by the end of the 2030, we will be requiring another 3000 megawatt of solar power to meet out our agriculture demand, which we have decided to give only during the daytime. So solar is the only solution as far as Rajasthan is concerned to meet out the agriculture demand of the Rajasthan farmers. Secondly, we have certain old wind power set up in Rajasthan, around 500 megawatt. These wind are of 45 meter of hub height, and their CUF is not very encouraging. So we would also like that proper utilization of existing infrastructure and space, land, I mean to say, the repowering of these wind power is also beneficial for the state of Rajasthan. Second, we have also a challenge of balancing of RE power. We have another challenge that we don't have balancing force for absorbing the variations of renewable energy. So these solutions are simultaneously need to be searched so that optimum utilization of available resources can be used for portfolio optimization for Rajasthan consumers. Rajasthan power sector, conventional power, as far as conventional power is concerned, we have sufficient availability as of now. More than 21,000 megawatt of the capacity we have tied up. And since the entire agriculture demand is to be shifted during daytime, so our major focus will be to tie up maximum solar power to meet out the agriculture demand. We have around 50% of the agriculture demand of the total portfolio of the state. So this is what I wanted to say. What else you would like to ask?
No, sure. Thanks, Mr. Anwar. I have one more question for you. So in the recent times, there has been an enhanced focus by state on enhancing state revenue from the large RE deployment happening in the state by virtue of Rajasthan Renewable Energy Development Fund and more recently additional land tax. Would you like to make any comments whether that might impact investments in the state, or is there any discussion going on at the government level on these aspects, sir? Ranva sir?
Nothing concrete has come out of through these discussions yet.
Okay.
So because
Okay.
since the Rajasthan is offering best solar radiation, we are offering renewable generators, renewable investors a good source of solar radiation. So definitely state would look like to see that some incentive should be given to the host state. As far as you see the example of hydro states, 15% energy is free for the host state. The same way, state would also like to get some incentive in return of what we are facilitating to the investors or the generators.
No, sure. Totally understandable, sir. So, Ranva Saab has mentioned a very interesting thing, which is about moving more and more to hybrids and using a combination of solar and batteries. So, Vishal, I would like to move back to you because there is also one more thing which is impending, which is the ISTS waiver going away in a post-2023 scenario. And once that happens, at least there is a broad understanding in the sector that a lot of RE investment happening in Rajasthan for supply of power outside of Rajasthan. The ISTS waiver is helping Rajasthan get all these investments because the burden of ISTS charges are not on consumers. In this context, what do you think, how it will pan out the investments in Rajasthan, and what are the threats or opportunities for Rajasthan with ISTS waiver going away beyond 2023? And before you answer to this question, I would like to remind the audience that if they have any questions for the panelists, they can type in the chat box where they are watching these proceedings, and we'll try to take up as many as we can. Over to you, Vishal.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak. So, I mean, the ISTS going away is definitely will affect, if I may use the word, business model of Rajasthan, as it stands today, which is heavier towards solar and, large scale solar development for the purpose of injecting power into the grid, which is not getting used in Rajasthan itself. If the current transmission pricing regime, which is there for conventional power, which is megawatt based and is applied, then it causes a huge deterrent, to set up capacity in Rajasthan and export, right? So I think it is a threat. I mean, there is no doubt about it. It is a threat in the way the current model is set up, which is predominantly plain vanilla solar led, and majority of the capacity being set up for exporting power, right? However, there are two. One is a point I wanted to make on, what's likely to happen post the ISTS waiver going in. I mean, nobody knows whether the ISTS waiver will go away for sure. Second is also, if the ISTS waiver goes away, do we jump straight from 0 to the megawatt equivalent, or there is a discussion obviously around the creating a energy-based pricing for transmission capacity, right? I mean, that's the other discussion, and we might get there eventually in steps, right? So I think if I was wearing the Rajasthan hat, then I would really push from a policy and advocacy point of view to have an intermediate step before we go the entire distance, right? But obviously, as planners and policy makers, you will have to assume the worst, saying that, let's say this happens, then what are the mitigation measures for that? And I see that in two ways. One is, I think there is already thought process and direction on creating more hybrid capacity, or if not hybrid capacity, solar plus storage. I think while the need for storage might be felt a little later in the rest of the country, I think Rajasthan would feel it sooner, and probably rather than waiting for central direction or policy coming from the center or MNRE. I think Rajasthan, having set up its own SECI equivalent, should ideally start piloting and innovating on the hybrids as well as storage at the state level, right? So I think there is a question around altering the profile of renewable generation to be still competitive in the in the full ISTS pricing regime. That's one track of thought, I would say, where planners would need to pay attention. The other is, I also think it would be a shame if the kind of resources that Rajasthan has gets wasted. I mean, if I were to put an ambitious hat on, it could be probably one of the first state grids or distribution companies to go net zero, or pretty much all the way in terms of renewable usage within the state itself. There is actually a lot of potential from a downstream new use case development for electricity itself, right? I mean, if I just look at the map, there is Badmer refinery, which is, if I were to talk in equivalent electrolyzer based hydrogen terms, it's a 1 gigawatt potential straight away, and that refinery is in the construction stage. It's not like you'll have to do a replacement. It most likely uses naphtha, which anyways makes the grey hydrogen also very expensive for them. So I'm saying there is room to innovate on using renewable within the state for some of the downstream use cases, and actually create capacity in that direction. There is Chambal fertilizer, which has another 1 gigawatt potential. And when I'm saying 1 gigawatt, this is electrolyzer capacity. So if you were talking pure solar terms, 2 gigawatts is equal to 8 gigawatts of solar, right? So if you're taking a 3 to 5 year horizon, which is post 2022 or 2023, I think these are all within striking distance where a downstream use cases can be brought in. I'm also looking at some of the climate risk models for Rajasthan, and I can see some really hotspots in the western part and in the central part of Rajasthan. You will need to find both cooling and heating solutions to be able to solve for these, which will require a lot of energy consumption, and you will not solve a problem created due to climate change by burning more coal or fossil fuel. I mean, you will have to find a way of using both cooling and heating solutions using renewable. So there is, as I said, on one front there is a altering the profile, and for that I would say Rajasthan should take lead in terms of storage and hybrid constructs. And on the other end, there is actually a lot of consumption which can be done within the state itself by really looking at some of the use cases which are either not electrified but can be converted to electricity usage. So I would say that would be my two-pronged approach in the post-ISTS.
Thanks, Vishal. I think we will certainly pass on these inputs in our note that we prepare for Rajasthan. But also now coming to you, Sanjay, and particularly I would request your input on the same question, but with specific reference to the new bidding models that SECI are adopting. Do you see any linkage between those two things? Post-ISTS waiver regime and the kind of bid constructs that SECI is doing, the peak power, hybrid, and RTC kind of constructs?
I think SECI has clearly shown that they see the market moving in that direction. So we had the peak power bid and then the RTC bid, round the clock power, which had a higher PLF requirement than the peak power, and then we also have the RE thermal bid, which is coming up, which is hybridization of solar and wind with thermal power. So definitely SECI sees this as the market going forward, which is more and more hybrid projects coming up, and probably slowly the quantum of plain vanilla projects coming down. And just to add to what Vishal said, I mean, like, we have almost 25 to 30 gigawatt of projects getting set up in Rajasthan over the next 2 years or 2.5 years till the ISTS waiver goes up. And about 80 to 90% of these projects are for supply outside the state. So what happens after the ISTS waiver goes up? One is, of course, you will see the movement towards hybrid and storage to increase the PLF and reduce those transmission charges. But at a reasonable level, the way prices have been coming down for solar and also for wind recently, even with hybrid, with the ISTS charges loaded for a high CO project of anywhere between 60 to 80%, I still think it'll make a lot of sense for a lot of states in the country. Today in India, we have about 9 or 10 states which are renewable rich, you can say. But the remaining 17, 18 states, have to depend on import of power for renewable power for meeting the RPO obligations or even the incremental demand in the future. So I still think there is a scope for a lot of development to happen in Rajasthan, but primarily hybrid and including storage and wind. Yeah.
Thanks, Sanjay. So we also have a few audience questions, but before I move to that, once again I move to Mr. Ranwa. Mr. Ranwa, is your procurement strategy, which is primarily intrastate, but also coming from the broader power sector, what are your views on implications for Rajasthan with ISTS waiver going away, particularly in terms of large-scale investments in the state, sir?
But definitely, if the waiver of ISTS goes away, prices will increase, and it will definitely affect the procurement process of Rajasthan. Because in that case, since we have a sufficient evacuation capacity of the STU, State Transmission Utility, and we have the resources within the state, so we would rely more on the intrastate generation and intrastate injection in our own transmission system. So definitely we would like to prefer to avoid ISTS if the waiver goes away.
But sir, also not from Rajasthan angle, for other states which are procuring a lot of power from Rajasthan, and Rajasthan is therefore getting investment because of those things, the state might tend to lose out on such investments. So any discussions ongoing in the state as to how to keep investors' interest or how to pitch this issue to the central government so that investments continue?
As of now, it's not very clear whether this waiver will go away, because everybody is expecting that this will be further extended, as the central government is also very keen in promoting the solar generation and renewable generation for making this planet a green planet. So as of now, it is not sure that this will go away. So once the deadline comes nearer, we'll get to know what is going to happen.
Sure, I think that's very smart. But also, I mean, I'd like to highlight that we see as people who talk to many people, I think if Rajasthan should make this push to have clarity on this issue sooner than later on the ISTS waiver, so that there could be adequate planning done by both the state and the central government agencies in terms of other associated infrastructure that might be needed. So that's one.
Definitely, we will move to MOP for a clarification on this issue. No issue.
Yeah. Then, sir, I'll cover some of the audience questions. One question which to the panelist is post-pandemic, how do we see the future for investors in RE? This is obviously a generic question as much as it applies to Rajasthan. And another key question is, is Rajasthan having any specific focus on storage on the policy side? While Mr. Ranwa did cover that there are plans to procure some storage, but is there also any specific focus on the policy side? Let me go with first question. I think partly it was covered by in our plenary session as well by Minister as well as Sumant. But still, if Vishal, Sanjay or Mr. Ranwa, any of you want to add any quick inputs to this question, post-pandemic, how is the future for investors in the RE sector?
Actually, procurement of RE power is not only the question of fulfillment of RPO now, as the prices of RE power has gone very competitive. So in order to optimize the power procurement cost, Rajasthan is willing to procure RE power. And as far as the demand post-pandemic is concerned, demand is on the rise. We are experiencing around 15% increase in demand over the last year of the same month. So as far as demand is concerned, there is no reduction in demand. It is on the rise. So definitely, we would like to procure RE power as the prices has been very competitive. And secondly, Rajasthan demand, agri demand is suiting to the procurement of solar power.
And I think investors are being very bullish about the sector post-pandemic. As we saw in the last two bids which happened, Rajasthan and Gujarat, both were oversubscribed. One was 5 times and the other was almost 7 times, I think.
Yeah.
So a lot of capital which is chasing the capacity in the sector, and I think the overall climate is very good. Yeah.
And on the state-specific storage policy, any thoughts, Mr. Anwar?
As our honorable minister has highlighted, that we have a specific provisions in the solar policy for procurement of storage, battery storage or pump storage. So, and the demand pattern of Rajasthan, we would definitely would like to make the solar generation curve into a straight line. That is possible only with the battery storage. So definitely we would like to procure battery storage with the solar.
Okay. So any last 2-minute input from any of the fellow panelists, and I'll do in the reverse order. Sanjay, do you have any last 2-minute input before I conclude and hand it over back to Vaishali in next 5 minutes or so?
Nothing much from my side. I think we've covered all the important points. Only thing, one of the questions that you asked was what more the government could do. As I said, the policy environment is very conducive. Only one thing is, continue the focus on development of solar parks, and not just solar parks, maybe solar, wind, hybrid parks. Maybe it's also time to look at. There's decent potential for wind, pretty good potential for wind in Rajasthan. I think the government should now start working more on wind parks also, so that which would lead to the development of more hybrid projects in the future.
Okay, thanks. Vishal, any last thoughts?
My only last thought would be just a reaction to what Mr. Anwar said. I think it'll be good, obviously from Rajasthan's perspective, it'll be good if the ISTS waiver does not go away. But I would really, one is to obviously pursue that path of trying to make that case. But at the same time, you have to assume that that it will happen in some shape and form. If not in 23, then 24. I mean, it's not a 10-year thing. And I would, really request the decision makers and planners at Rajasthan to really assume that scenario and create policy accordingly.
Thank you, Vishal. Ranva Saab, any last minute thoughts?
Oh, thank you. Nothing much to say now.
So just as a moderator, while I would not like to sum it up because that's what I'll request Vaishali to do, but also as a quick input on what I have heard from the panelists. So Ranva Saab, congratulations to you in terms of being a part of the state machinery, which is doing very, very good, very enabling work. On the grid integration side, your work has been commendable. We have observed that from a distance, and also very close with the kind of investments that are there on the grid. And Rajasthan is a state which tries to ensure that there is no curtailment happening, that investors have their power being delivered to the grid and injected into the grid at almost all points in time. So kudos to the state for providing a very, very positive and enabling framework on the state side as well as for intrastate kind of developments. Just sometimes small little operational issues that crop up, again, state has been very, very proactively working on resolving those issues. When humble request and suggestion is for you to continue on that path, and also, we'll be happy to work with you on behalf of the industry. I'm saying this to resolve those issues as they come. Both for projects that are going to procure from Rajasthan and those projects which are being set up for delivering power outside of Rajasthan. Thank you all. And now I hand over to Ms. Sinha for wrapping up the session and again delivering a final word of thanks. Ms. Sinha, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Deepak. Thank you. Thank you, Vishal, Sanjay, and Mr. Ranwa for some great points which were made in this discussion. Some candid points made by business and policymakers. And when business policymakers come together and talk frankly, I think magic happens, execution happens, change happens, we make progress. So, thank you for asking the important questions, Deepak. the goal of any useful webinar. So great moderation. No session is interesting and engaging without a fantastic moderator. So appreciate that. I think it's quite clear from this conversation that there are, enormous national advantages, and that coupled with an enabling policy environment, Rajasthan clearly is positioned the way it is, attracting a huge amount of renewable energy investment. Clearly, there is ease of executing projects on the ground, which is clearly distinguishing Rajasthan from many other states. So, given that Rajasthan is such a role model, I'm sure when we share this information with the other policymakers around India, they will take note, and they will also do their bit to learn and amplify their efforts, which is a part of what we are trying to do, trying to make sure that we all work together, learn from each other, identify the challenges by getting into a dialogue, into a conversation, which leads to a productive outcome. That's our goal as a part of the thought leadership initiative of Renew Foundation. It's really great to see Rajasthan optimizing power costs by harnessing more and more renewables. Development of storage, as we discussed, and hybrid will be very important for deepening and penetrating further in Rajasthan. The future clearly looks bright in Rajasthan. And so I think we should all come together and do our bit to accelerate, Atmanirbharta, and to meet our goals, which have been set by the Prime Minister. So none of this is possible, as I mentioned in the beginning, and as each of the keynote address identified, that you do need leaders at the right place, leaders with the right vision, and then people who do work on the ground. And it's good to see in India all that is coming together well for us to sort of accelerate our journeys respectively. Last but not the least, no conversation is complete without a great audience. We had over 150 participants in person present today. And we're going to amplify it much more through various other social media channels like YouTube, etc. So the takeaways of this conversation are going to be amplified digitally and through a report which we will be sharing with the government stakeholders and various other important stakeholders, investors, etc. I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank our knowledge partner, Padmalay, for their contribution. I'd also like to thank the team which makes these webinars possible. There's a lot of work which happens, and really, during COVID times, this is one of my takeaways, that we've been able to have important conversations with important stakeholders without a lot of effort, without sort of, carbon emissions, and just doing it in a very eco-friendly way. And thank you all. Really appreciate the time. And I know it's late. We are touching 8 o'clock, a little bit delayed, but I think it was all worth it. Great conversation. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, everyone.